Welcome to Beginning Android Development. This week we're going to take a look at the Android manifest. We're going to look at activities, and we're going to look at implicit intents and explicit intents. So we've spoken earlier about what an activity is. An activity is something that a Java class that goes behind a layout. So a layout is an XML file, and we have a WYSIWYG editor that we can use to put things on the layout. An activity is a Java class or a programming class behind that layout. And that class can do things like pre-populate fields on the layout. It can respond to button clicks. An activity is generally responsible for any view level logic that will happen in a class. So things like our navigation. And also an activity will hand off to other classes that will typically do things like persistence. In other words, save data. So that's what an activity is. Anytime we're on a screen, there's typically an activity behind it. So uh, there are two activities are called by things that are named intents. And there are two types of intents. There is an explicit intent where you tell the activity exactly where you want to go next. You say what activity you want to use next. And then there's an implicit intent. An implicit intent, you just specify certain parameters, and the Android operating system will find an activity that matches. If more than one match, many times it will give the user an option on which to use. So in this class, because this is a beginning Android development class, and we don't assume a great depth of knowledge in programming for this class, it's a good idea to look for other things that you can integrate with your program without having to write them by yourselves. For example, we're going to take a look at search by color. This is the emulator for Plain Places Mobile. So we will take a look at search by color. When I originally wrote this screen here, I wrote some code that interacted directly with the camera, and I wrote some code that interacted directly with the file system. As I look back, that was a mistake. So what we see here is a screen that I wrote for Plain Places Mobile with an advertisement on the top, and then a little place for a thumbnail here, a little image, and then a place down below where some colors will appear from that image. We can grab that image one of two ways. We can either take a photo, or we can open an existing image. And this is where Plain Places Mobile hands off to another program by using what's called an implicit intent. So let's choose Open Existing Image. I'm going to select that, and forgive me one second, the debugger popped up behind me. So I'm going to select that, and what's going to happen is it's going to go to Gallery View. Now, if you have Plain Places Mobile right now by chance, you won't see this. What you'll see is a list of file names, which frankly is useless and not very user-friendly. That's the thing that I wrote by myself that shows, okay, these are the files on your file system. It's just not user-friendly. On the other hand, this is something where I went in and said, just find something that will show me images on the phone. And then when the user selects an image, I want you to take that image and return it back to me. So that this gallery view that we're looking at now, that's not something I wrote. Instead, I just asked the Android operating system to find something that would show me the images that are on my computer. And here we go. These are the colors then that it returned from that image. So that's what's called an implicit intent, where you say, I want some piece of functionality that will show images on my SD card, for instance. But I don't want to write the functionality myself. If you can use an implicit intent, definitely you'll be very well served. Another implicit intent, and this is an emulator, so it won't show a real camera, but take new photo. What I'm doing here is I'm saying find something on the phone that will capture an image. And then it hands off from my program, Plain Places Mobile, it hands off to the camera. And again, this is an emulator, so it's not the real camera. That's why we see kind of a goofy animation here. But it can at least emulate a picture, and then I can take the picture and hit a check. And what we'll see is it will take me back to the color search screen, and it will show me that picture and then show me a few colors that it sampled from that picture. So we're back in Plain Places Mobile now. So that's what's called an implicit intent. The camera and the gallery view, both implicit intents. Always a good idea to look for those whenever you can. So we'll walk through an example of some implicit intents. So let me go back now. I'm going to go back to the, actually, I guess I could have stayed on that screen. Go back to the main screen. You see, this is a screen within Plain Places Mobile. When I do hit search by color, I go directly to the search by color screen, which is another screen that's also within the Plain Places mobile program. So this is another screen that I have written. Okay, so I'll go back and I'll do take new photo. If I'm going to a screen within my application, I'm stating explicitly what screen I want to go to. And that's what we will call an explicit intent. Okay, so an explicit intent is navigating to another screen or activity, if you wish to call it that, within the program where we currently are. Okay. Um, as it looks out, I don't really get many colors to search on here. I'll go ahead and choose the green color and the debugger hit again. One moment, please. Okay. So what this will do then is this will give me back a list of plants that have this color green in it. So here what I'm doing is I'm going within the, uh-oh, no results. They're actually for green, that color green. I usually don't index any colors for that. So we'll see if I can find something else. We'll try the gray here. Okay, see if we can get something with a color. So if we're within our application the entire time, it's what we'll call an explicit intent. Okay, so here we go. We have lacebark pine. Uh, this is another explicit intent. It's a screen that's within Plain Places Mobile that I've written. And now what it's going to do is it's going to redirect us to what's called a web view, or a mini, like a micro browser that we embed within our application. So here, the web view is something where we're kind of borrowing a rich component from the Android operating system. So that's what we're doing. It'll take a few moments to render our, it'll take a few moments to render the page, but nonetheless, that's the concept behind an explicit intent and an implicit intent. Okay, and here we go. So it's rendered our web page from directly from plantplaces.com. And this is, while we are in the emulator, this is a live. So what that gray matched on was this bark here. So while we're in the emulator, this is live data that we're looking at. This is real Plant Places data that we're looking at. Yeah, that's the kind of the interesting mottled color on that bark is what matched up. So. So there we go. So what we'll do now is we're going to look at some of this within our applications. I'm showing you a completed version right now, just so you can get an idea of where we're going in this lecture. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the application that we have been building together. And let's see if I can do that without restarting here. I'm just going to try to go back home. I'm going to go to the application that we've been building together, which is this one right here. Here we go. And we will try to do some implicit and explicit intents. So this is kind of like an early mock-up of the plant find, the GPS of plant screen. We have an area for latitude and longitude, which we'll fill out. We have a find specimen button and then a save location button. The find specimen we could pretty easily do with an explicit intent. I'll add another button on here that I do have on the liveplantplaces.com as well, the mobile app, and that is a take a photo button. So the take a photo button will do with an implicit intent. So that's our plan for today. Okay, so one moment as I resize Eclipse and bring it over and we'll take a look. I'm going to turn off the Plain Places debugger. Just one moment, please. Okay, I just did a little bit of resizing there to hopefully make it easier to find our application. So, okay, so Location Finder. This is the screen that we currently have. Okay, This is the activity that we wrote last week in our exercise last week. And if we go under Res Layout, we'll see Location XML. And that is the layout that we created, the one that we're also seeing on our emulator, like so. So a simple XML-based layout, but really, we don't really care what's going on underneath it. We don't care if it's XML or whatever. We just want a way that we can manipulate this kind of in a what you see is what you get method. So for find specimen, what that means is, well, I could change that to find plant, actually. Find plant might make more sense. But the idea is that we want to be able to look up a plant and then associate a latitude and longitude with it. As things happen, I'm recording this from England, and I just got back from a place called the Birmingham Botanical Garden and spent about 5 hours there today, actually more like 6 hours there today, doing exactly this, GPSing plants. And I don't have data turned on my phone because I am overseas. And so I have a local copy of the plants. But nonetheless, in 5 hours, 6 hours of GPSing plants, I managed to GPS quite a few, probably pretty well over 100 plants. And I want those to match up with the website as soon as I resynchronize the data. So it's important that when I'm GPSing the plant, I can associate the actual plant record from plantplaces.com with the plant itself. So anyway, that I don't know if that makes entirely sense, but find specimen or find plant is just going to be a way where we can go and search for a plant. So, okay, so what we need to do is we need to make maybe even just a little dummy layout and then an activity that will go with that layout. And then in a future lecture, we can enhance that layout with more widgets, more things. So, okay, I'm going to right click on layout in my Eclipse and I'm going to say new, and sorry, that's going to be off screen just a little bit. And then I'll say other, and I'm going to say Android XML layout file. Yeah, that's fine. For a search, table would be fine. Also, probably a linear layout would be fine. We'll use a table. I'll tell you what, we'll put a scroll view on. A scroll view allows us to scroll up and down. Okay, a scroll view allows us to put more content on the screen than we have room on the screen. Okay, that's what a scroll view does. It allows us to put content on the screen that we can scroll up and down. That's generally a good idea to start out with a scroll view because if we exceed the amount of space on our screen, we want to have that ability to scroll and find more. And with Android, we don't always know what the resolution will be of the system underneath. Plain Places Mobile on my phone looks good but cramped, I think. On a tablet device, it looks like it was designed for a phone, to be honest with you. So, okay, we'll say scroll view, and I'm going to call this file, we'll say advanced search. Okay, and I'm going to say next and finish. Okay. Okay, I have the debugger running. I'm going to disconnect it. Okay, there we go. So now I have a screen, and I'm going to Control M, and a scroll view can contain only one item, but that item can be a layout itself. So here we have a linear layout. That's fine. That'll work for us for now. So I'm going to start with a text, no, sorry, I'm going to start with a text view. Text view is read-only text, okay? So I'm going to drop the text view and I'm going to say edit text, and this is very important. We don't hard code a string in our application because it wouldn't be international friendly if we did that. What we need to do is we need to link a string to a resource called strings.xml. Okay, why do we do that? Why do we put it in strings.xml? Because it's easy to internationalize strings.xml. In other words, we can have a list of strings in English, and we put that in strings.xml. Then we can copy that file, give that to someone who's good at translating, say into Spanish, and then we can have a separate strings.xml for Spanish. That way, when you switch languages, all of the text in your application will switch languages as well. As a matter of fact, if you do use Plant Places Mobile, if you change your phone to Spanish, all of Plant Places Mobile will render in Spanish. So that's the one other language that I built in support for there. It's not very good, I'll warn you that. I mean, it was a matter of a couple things I knew and a lot of Google Translate, but nonetheless, it does natively support Spanish. So, okay, so new string. The nice thing is that Android does this little walkthrough or this little wizard that actually puts the things into strings.xml for you. You just have to walk through these steps. That's the only caveat. You have to walk through these steps to make your strings. So we have to name the string. We have to give it a name without spaces. I'll call it LBL for label, and then we'll say plant name. And then the actual text goes up above in the higher up blank. So I'll say name. Okay, it's going to be obvious because we're on an advanced search screen that this is the plant's name. Also, because we're limited on the number of pixels, I don't tend to put colons or anything like that. I tend to just put the label term. Okay, so I choose OK, and eventually it will take us back to our screen, and I'm going to choose OK again, and we have the word name. Okay. Now, next to that, I'm going to go to text fields, and I'm going to find an autocomplete text. Okay. Now, you know what? This is a linear layout. It's probably going to put it underneath, which I don't really care for. I might switch this. 1 second. Let me see if I can switch this to a relative layout. Looks like not really. I'm going to have to do a little bit of trickery here. Let me move. See if it'll let me put a relative layout up here. There we go. A scroll view can only, yeah, that's going to be tricky. You know what? Okay, hang on. Sorry, we're going to redo this. I'm going to just delete. There we go, relative layout. A scroll view can only have one direct child. See, a scroll view can only have one direct child. And because I already had a flow layout there, I couldn't put a relative layout. So, okay, no problem. We'll do it all again. We didn't get too far, did we? So I'm going to put a text view. And if that lines up right, yes, the text view goes under relative layout. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose edit text. Now the good news is I don't have to create a new string again. I can just pick it from the list right here. So there we go, and OK. Name, OK. Now what I'll do is I'm going to go to my text fields and I'm going to grab an autocomplete text. Now this gets a little bit tricky, but it's very handy. Align parent left equals true, align parent top equals true. No, that's not really where I want it. I want it to be to the right. Okay. Yes, there we go. To the right of text view 1, align parent top equals true. That'll work. Okay, that'll work. So relative layout means we place components relative to each other. So first I have the name label, and then I have an autocomplete text view that is to the right of the name label and aligned to the top of the name label. Okay? So let's see. I'm going to see if it will let me, yes, align parent right equals true. If I go ahead and stretch it all the way to the right, then what it will do is it will go ahead and align to the right. That means it will take up all the remaining horizontal space on this screen. Okay, and there we go. Now, why did I choose autocomplete text? What autocomplete text means is that I can, when the user starts typing, it will automatically complete with anything that I give it. On a mobile app, this should be basically a standard default thing to do because it's so important. Because with that keyboard, efficiency is very important. The ability to quickly put something in to the keyboard is very important. The other thing is that a lot of times we're multitasking when we are using our mobile devices. When I was out in Birmingham today at the Botanic Gardens, I usually had I had an Android tablet in one hand, my phone in another hand, camera in another hand. So I ran out of hands pretty quickly, and if I saw a plant, I would have to very quickly start, typing in what the plant name was, and then hit autocomplete. So we do have to provide it with a list of things to autocomplete, but it's a godsend. It's something that we really want. So okay, I'm going to right click, edit text. Um, I tend to have, see, the problem is it just puts dummy text in there. I usually make a new string that I just set to blank for cases like this. So I'll call it LB, or I'll just call it blank. And the text, oh, okay, I already have one called blank. Let's see, Sometimes that's how it works. Yeah, there we go, blank. That way it doesn't start with any text in there. It's going to wait for the user to enter some text. So we have a little autocomplete field, and we can enhance this layout more, but for the moment what I'll do is I will say I'm just going to throw a button on there that would in theory take us back. So okay, 1 second. Form widgets, and button. It's right in front of me the entire time. Okay, I'm going to lay this button on here. Let's see if it will let me put it towards the bottom. Well, it doesn't really want me to put it anywhere yet, does it? Okay, so will you let me... This is a little bit tricky. We kind of have to just drag it and put it in a... It only wants me to put it on the top. All right. So if I put you... No, I don't want to put it there. I want to put it right under this guy. I want to line parent bottom. Okay. Doesn't want me to go to a new row. Okay, I might have to get a little bit tricky with this. One moment, please. Uh-huh. Okay. See, the problem is, for the relative layout, it's only giving it this much view. Maybe relative layout within a scroll view wasn't such a good idea. Okay, we'll deal with it. So now we're going to say button, and now there we go. Okay, I can either flush the button to the left, or I can flush it with this text entry field. I'll go ahead and put it kind of, yeah, I'll tell you what I do often. So this is now flush left, and the top is aligned with the bottom of the field above it. I'm going to drag it all the way across. A lot of times for a button, I'll go ahead and take the entire horizontal area. Now I'm going to edit text. I'm going to say new string, and we will call this one LBL search, and the string value will just be search. And OK. And OK. Okay, and there we go, and we have the search. So we have a bit of a start to this. More work to go, but at this point we at least have a relative layout. And remember, relative layout means that components are positioned relative to each other. It's a good liquid layout, and liquid layout is really important when we're doing mobile because we need to keep in mind that this is going to run on a lot of different sized things. So we don't want a button that looks really good on a phone, but looks really tiny on a tablet, and looks really, really tiny on a TV, and looks really big on a watch. So relative layout is nice because it allows the layout to reposition itself for whatever device it's on. Okay, so that's our layout. The next thing we need to do is we need to make an activity class, which we don't have yet. So what I'm going to do, I'm in Eclipse now. I'm going to hold down Control and press M, which takes that and just kind of minimizes it and shows me everything else in Eclipse. If you don't like all the windows in Eclipse, which frankly, a lot of beginners aren't really a big fan of those windows, Control M is your best friend because Control M will take the window wherever your cursor is and either make that consume the whole screen or take that window and make it small and show you all the other windows. So Control M is something you'll get used to quite a bit. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to right click on com.plantplaces.ui and I'm going to say new class. Okay, on this I'm going to say something like plant search activity, or we could just call it plant search, but I'll call it plant search activity. Okay. What's important, so this is the name of the activity or the Java class that's going to support this screen. What's important is the superclass. It can't be java.lang.object. What we have to do here is choose browse. And now you see it comes up and once again it says java.lang.object. Don't let that be confusing. Type in activity and start typing activity and you'll see android.app activity. That is the superclass, but we don't know what a superclass is, do we? That's just the Android provided class that gives us some additional functionality and tells us that we are an activity. So superclass android.app.activity, that's what you want to choose for your activity. And again, select browse, type activity, and you'll start to see it pop up. Go ahead, select it. Make sure in the superclass box it says android.app.activity. Aside from that, I think we're in good shape. Let's see, source folder is good, that's good. And the name, I tend to end all my activity names with the word activity. Make it something that makes sense. You have plenty of space, so don't abbreviate. Go ahead and spell it all out. The typical rules that we follow when we're naming a class is we have the words together. We can't have spaces between the words. Okay, we're not allowed to have spaces between the words. Each word starts with a capital letter. All other letters are lowercase. That's what we call Pascal case. So when we're creating a class in Java, the name is either letters or numbers. Okay. By the way, this is a great quiz question. What are the rules for naming a class in Java? The rules are no spaces, no special characters. There are two that are permitted, but just don't use them. Just no spaces, no special characters. Letters or numbers. The first character has to be a letter, though. You can't start with a number. The first character has to be a letter. And we do it Pascal case, which means all the words are together without spaces, and the first letter of each word is uppercase. So that's typically what we do. So plant search activity here. I think we're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to choose finish. What it's going to do then is it's going to start what we call a class called plant search activity. I'm going to control M so I can look at this. We need some way to associate this activity with that layout that we just made. Okay, we need some way to associate this activity with the layout. But first, before we do any code, we should always put in some class level JavaDoc comments. Okay, comments don't compile, they just tell us a little bit about the class. So to do JavaDoc, do the slash that's on the question mark to the left of the shift, and then star star, and then hit enter. And you see this little block comes up. Anything within this block, you can type whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to say make it easy to search for a plant. Okay, sure. I mean, that'll work for now, just so we know a little bit about it. Every class should have JavaDoc. It should tell us what the class is doing. So that's part one. Part two, we need to have a link between this class and the layout. Okay, we need to have a link between this class and layout. Remember last week we spoke about what methods are. Methods have a method signature. What we need is we need a method called onCreate. And that method has to have a very specific signature. Not a method call, but actually a method with a method signature called onCreate. Okay? And the method signature here is very important. The syntax is very important. So the good news is they know that we need this. So there's an easy way to use this method within your class itself. Okay? So you see open curly on line 11, close curly on line 14. It's very important that you're within the open and close curly. Very important you're within that open and close curly. Within that open and close curly, type the letters ON in lowercase and then C in uppercase. Okay? If you can do that much, you're already in really good shape. So type the letters ON in lowercase and then C in uppercase. Okay? Now let me show you a little trick. I told you they know we're going to need this method. hold down Control. Okay, that's if you're on a Windows machine. It's usually all the way on the lower left, lower left corner, around where the Windows logo key is. Hold down that Control key and keep it held, and then just tap the spacebar. Okay, and what's going to happen is you're going to see a bunch of names come up. The one you want is this one called On Create with Bundle. Okay, On Create with Bundle. You can type more if you want. As you type, it filters down this list. So you can type the whole word On Create. But trust me, this is the easiest way to get this method. Then simply click. Okay, what Eclipse does for you now is it creates this method that you need to wire up your activity with the layout. This is exactly what the method should look like. Okay, remember what a method is. Okay, a method has a method signature, which is a unique way to identify that method. Like how my mobile phone has a mobile phone number, and if you dial that mobile phone number, it will uniquely reach me, nobody else. So the method signature here is this word protected, which is what we call the access modifier. The word void, that's the return type. In this case, it's saying we're not returning anything. And then a method called onCreate, that's the method name. And then this is what we call a parameter list. Don't worry too much about that parameter list yet. That's just stuff that gets passed into us that we can use if we choose. Also, we have something up here called an override annotation. Don't worry too much about that either. Just go ahead and leave it there. That's just a sign of what we're doing with this method. Next, on line 17, we have super.onCreate. Leave that there as well. As a matter of fact, put your cursor to the right of the semicolon on onCreate. Put your cursor to the right of that semicolon. Choose Enter. Okay, and now we're going to associate the layout with this class. Remember again, there's a difference between being a method, which is what we have here, and calling a method. Just like my phone number is 513-886-7882. By the way, don't call it. I don't have coverage while I'm in the UK. I will when I'm back in the US. But anyway, that's my phone number. You might have my phone number in your directory, but that doesn't make your phone my phone, does it? That doesn't mean that if I dial that number, I'll get your phone. You're just calling my phone. The same thing happens with method calls. Here I am in this onCreate method. I need to call another method, and that method is going to link up the layout with our activity. Okay, that method's going to link up the layout with our activity. The name of this method is called setContentView. SetContentView. Okay, don't worry too much about that. Let me show you another trick again. I'm gonna start typing set C, and then I'm going to hold down Control and hit space. And the first option is what we want, the one that says Set Content View int layout res ID. So I'm going to go ahead with my mouse and click that. You can also just hit enter and it will pick the first one. But that's the magic things. This is what marries up our layout with our activity. Now it wants this int layout res ID, which sounds really confusing, but again, if you know the secret, it's not that bad. What we have to do is hold down the shift key and press R, so capital R, and then start typing layout. And it's important when you're typing this that you get the layout that says, well, for us, it's our package name here, com.example.fs131046 plain places. It's important that you make sure you choose whatever package you're using for your project. So I choose that, r.layout, hopefully. Okay, and then I'm going to choose, take a look, I'm sorry, so r.layout, and then you see advanced search is the first option. That's fine. r.layout.advanced search. And semicolon, we'll close that off. Okay, and now I'm ready to choose save. So this is how we associate a layout with an activity. Next, we simply need to call this activity from our other screen. So I'll tell you what, I'm approaching the 35-minute mark. and I want to keep these lectures about 35 minutes or so on average. So let's stick with this right now. We won't be able to see this in the debugger until we wire it up. But in our next lecture, what we'll do is we will jump from the very first screen that we see, this screen here, when we'll make this find specimen button jump over here and call this activity.